Hi everyone, I'm Olivia Gordon, and for my Indigenous 100 term project, I am going to be looking into the Amazonian Kichwa peoples of Ecuador. I have a couple outcomes here, so after my presentation today, you will have a greater knowledge for the Kichwa Indigenous peoples of Ecuador, an understanding of the Kichwa Indigenous peoples of Ecuador's language, traditions, and culture, a description of the level of education Kichwa people of Ecuador currently have access to, and an understanding of how Spanish colonization affected the Kichwa's peoples of Ecuador. To get a visual, I've included these flags. So on the left is the Ecuadorian flag, and on the right is the Indigenous Peoples of Ecuador flag. I also want to comment that all the photos in my presentation today were taken by me from my travels in Ecuador. The Kichwa peoples of Ecuador are located all throughout Ecuador, but mainly in the Amazon rainforest. The photo on the left is an image I took during a hike guided by a Kichwa indigenous person, and on the right it is a photo that I took while being transported from the Andes Mountains to the Amazon rainforest. I've included an image of Ecuador on the map to give a visual of where Ecuador is in our world. Ecuador is a country in northwestern South America bordered by Peru, Colombia, and the Pacific Ocean. Ecuador is one of the most environmentally diverse countries in the world. Ecuador has a mild climate year-round. This to-scale map shows the size comparison of Canada compared to Ecuador. Ecuador is about 35 times smaller than Canada. Canada is approximately 10 million square kilometers, while Ecuador is approximately 280,000 square kilometers. Meanwhile, the population of Canada is approximately 35.6 million people. 19.3 million fewer people live in Ecuador. In Spanish, the word Ecuador means equator. Ecuador is located in the middle of the world. These are photos I took while visiting Ecuador in 2014. The right image shows my feet straddling the equator line. Background information. The Kichwa people of Ecuador mainly speak Quechua. A true indicator of Kichwa integration into the rest of society is bilingualism. Most of the younger members of the communities speak both their native language, Kichwa, and Spanish. It is not uncommon to find that elders in the community speak just Kichwa. The current population in Ecuador is estimated to be about 80,000 people. They are now the minority in Ecuador, making up 25% of the population. As the minority, they have had many things change in their country. Culture and traditions. The Kichwa people were very successful and are still very successful farmers. They have converted much of their land that they occupy into fertile agriculture areas. They were also very successful in hunting and gathering in order to survive. They survived off of lots of fish as they were located by many bodies of water. The present-day Kichwa peoples are hardworking and continue their farming heritage, raising food crops such as potatoes and corn, as well as raising pigs, sheep, and guinea pigs. Guinea pigs are a prime food source in Ecuador. While visiting Ecuador, I had the opportunity to have a meal with the Kichwa peoples of guinea pig. We also had the opportunity to view the sacrifice of the guinea pig. It was quite educational to witness the sacrifice, as it is quite different than a sacrifice seen in Canada. The Kichwa peoples are very welcoming to their visitors and are honored to share their traditions. They have many traditions such as pottery. They use their pottery skills for crafting, but also use them to create eating utensils. The creation of hunting tools such as the blowgun is also something very prominent in the Kichwa people's culture. Crafts are also another huge tradition in the Kichwa people's culture. Many traditional handmade crafts made from local plant products such as jewelry made from seeds or hammocks made from palm fiber are very popular. Kichwa people love to cook. Food is often prepared by the matriarch, who is a woman who rules or dominates a family, group, or culture. Cooked plantains, yucca, or even crawling palm grubs may make up the plate of the day. Fermented beverages including Kichwa brew, a beer-like fermented beverage made from yucca that makes up a significant part of the Kichwa people's diet. The medicine man or the shaman is one of the most important members of the Kichwa community, fluent in the best medicinal herbs and knowledge about the spiritual world, which could be accessed in special Kichwa rituals. The shaman plays a vital role in the spiritual lives of the Kichwa people and is happy to share their mystic traditions, ceremonies, and rituals with visitors. While visiting Ecuador, I had the opportunity to take part in a shaman ritual, and it was truly amazing to see how the Kichwa culture lived and believed. I've added some images here from my travels in Ecuador and the way that the Kichwa people showed us their cultures and traditions. On the left is a photo of me with a Kichwa Indigenous man showing me how they create pure dark chocolate in their culture. On the right is a photo of us before we entered the Amazon rainforest for a hike led by an Indigenous male. We were welcomed into the rainforest by having an animal assigned to us. The symbols drawn on our face were representing the animals. These symbols were drawn on with a fruit paste. I was a toucan. Like I had mentioned before, the Kichwa people are very crafty people. On the left is an image of our tour guide who created this bed, or you could call it a hammock, in less than 2 minutes. He showed us this because Kichwa mothers or anyone surviving in the rainforest would use these to sleep or rest. He then made this bed into a backpack pictured on the right. Mothers of Kichwa children would use this as a backpack for their kids' belongings or even use it as a cradle for their children. Spanish colonization. The original inhabitants or ancestors of the Kichwa are believed to be the Ouija. The Ouija are lowland Kichwa people living in the basins of Napo, Agurico, San Miguel, and Putumayo river basins of Ecuador and Peru. The Kichwa peoples were invaded by the Incas, which was a large empire in the pre-Columbian America in the 1400s. The rivalries quickly started when the Incas demanded resources such as cinnamon, gold, and fur. By the 1500s, most of Ecuador was a part of the Inca Empire. This is very similar to the Canadian Indigenous peoples, as the Europeans invaded the Canadian First Nations people and demanded land and resources. The Spanish conquered Quito, the modern capital of Ecuador in the Sierra region, which was a mountain range, in 1533 after the decline of the Incan army following the execution of Atahualpa, who was an Incan emperor. The invasions caused potential loss of language, traditions, and culture for the Kichwa peoples. Today, they have now gained power in language, traditions, and their basic culture through taking back their history and learning and teaching their youth about the Kichwa people's history. Education in Ecuador today. Formal education is categorized into 4 different levels: a pre-primary, which is similar to pre-kindergarten. Pre-primary school is not mandatory for education for those of 2 to 6 years of age. Next is primary. This is similar to elementary school. Next is secondary school, similar to high school, and then higher education, which would be similar to post-secondary schooling. Education is mandatory for at least 6 years and free for children ages 6 to 14. Though families may deal with additional charges such as fees and transportation costs. Ecuador has over 100 post-secondary schools for young adults wanting to further their education. Schools in Ecuador have similarities to Canadian schools. They have the basic needs such as desks, white and chalkboards, teachers, and academic resources. Some villages in Ecuador lack the school environment similar to Canada because they do not have advanced technology. The village of San Miguel, which I volunteered in, had a break during school for the students to have a snack and recess break. This is similar to Canadian schools. The village also had clean drinking water for all students and community members, thanks to Me2We. Many of the schools in Ecuador value a good, healthy lifestyle. These images were taken while we were on our worksite in San Miguel at the schools. The students were wearing uniforms depending on grade level. On the left is Mary. Mary was a grade 6 student who was wearing a sweater dress. On the right are two girls who are younger and are wearing sweatsuits. Some schools in Canada also offer uniforms, but this is something that is maybe a little bit different. So that concludes my presentation on the Amazonian Kichwa peoples of Ecuador. I hope that you have a greater knowledge and a better understanding of Indigenous peoples around our world today. Thank you.